Good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining. This is the first live interactive episode of One Square at a Time, where we take movies and break them down into ways that can better attach and work within your life, leadership, and legacy. So I don't know how many people out there have had an opportunity so far to actually view the recorded version, but we have out there, and I'll post right now at the bottom of the screen, a link or the link to the show that we pre-recorded, which is an interactive show with just a couple of guests, and Brandon Croucher, and we actually had guest host Sarah on the show with us, and we went through the movie Soul in order to really kind of draw out the things that we found most interesting and exciting about how the movie can relate to us in our real lives. Soul, for those who haven't had a chance to see it, is a movie that Disney put out. It really is a phenomenal look into what life might be like before we actually get to Earth, and what it can be like when we leave Earth. So just wanted to, first of all, again, acknowledge everybody who has joined. And I want to bring up my Facebook area just so that I can get a better chance to see if anybody is over there to observe what's going on. So here we go. Soul. I think to start the whole thing off, because this is the first time that we're doing it live, is to really just kind of discuss why we're doing this. Over the course of my 37 years now in leadership roles and so forth, it became apparent to me that oftentimes we don't look at ourselves as leaders in life. And when we are seeing ourselves as leaders, we oftentimes don't relate to the people around us as much as we might be able to if we really looked at things in a deeper perspective. Hi, Lena, coming from Sweden. That's awesome. Love you. Looking forward to any comments that you may have. If you do, just you can post them on Facebook, and I'll be able to see them. Or if you want to actually come and join me on the screen, we can do that as well. So anyhow, the reason I did this is because after 37 years of being in the military, 20 years actually in the military, 8 years active, and 12 more in the reserves. And also while I was in the reserves and when I was part of life and leadership outside of the reserves, I worked for a lot of large companies. I worked for companies like UPS, for Ryder Logistics, for Maersk Logistics, for PricewaterhouseCoopers. And one of the things that I really was able to do is help to lead teams to change and to improve businesses, but not just businesses, but the individuals themselves. Because what I named my business, and I'll show that at the bottom of the screen here, is businesses are people too. Why did I choose businesses are people too? Because businesses oftentimes get so tied up into the technology, especially after this world of COVID. They focus on technology to protect people, technology to be more effective, technology to be able to provide a better service to their customers. But ultimately, businesses come back down to the people within the business. And when we're talking about the people within the business, we have to grow those people. We have to help them to improve themselves, because as people improve, as people get a better understanding of what drives them, of what is really their reason for being, of what their natural talents and energies are, they can better contribute to the company, to their families, to themselves, and to life. And what do I mean when I say that? The very first team that we have to lead, and this is where everybody is a leader, is me, myself, and I. So everybody is a leader. And therefore, when we talk about leadership, or I mention leadership, I'm not talking about just like your boss at work or the CEO of some company, or even the troop leader of your Boy Scout or your Girl Scout troop. I'm talking about you as an individual, and also about us in particular. And I really look forward to being able to interact with you and help you to be able to draw out more of the messages that come out in movies that we see. And the reason I chose movies is that movies give me an opportunity to have something in common with you as we're talking. If you've seen the movie and I've seen the movie, we both perceive the movie in a different way. And messages that come out in movies oftentimes are overlooked. Movies can be very entertaining, but they can be very educational as well. The movie Soul is one in particular that I really, if you notice, my coffee cup is Superheroes, is to bring out the superpowers of what it's like to really appreciate the little things in life. Although the main character, Joe, he thought that his life was all about being able to be a jazz musician. Everything was about being a jazz musician. It was about aspiring to be a part of a jazz band. It was all about jazz. And in fact, it was to the point where jazz was such a major obsession of his that he lost touch with the rest of the world around him. And when he did that, he kind of lost his soul, if you want to look at it that way. In fact, he forgot about what it's like to get enjoyment from the little things around him. And he didn't really realize all this stuff until he was not paying attention, after he thought he was getting the first major step in becoming the jazz musician he wanted to be, and he fell through a manhole cover, fell into a manhole and died, and kind of went into an area between life and death where he actually got a chance to help the pre-souls, if you want to call it that, of the souls that are getting their quirks, their personalities, their sparks before they actually come down to earth and enter into the bodies of the babies around them, or babies. So this is kind of a whole thing about life before life and life after life meeting together, so that one can be a mentor, if you want to call it, to the baby souls that are about ready to come to earth. So that's what the movie kind of talks about, but then it brings it back down to earth, where Joe gets a second chance to really kind of experience his life and help others. So yeah, I see a question out there from Julie. She was just asking, what we thought of how it depicted, or how can this really be used in my life? Well, think of it this way. We in life are often told from the time we're born, hey, almost, first you're encouraged to talk, right? Your baby talk. And then you're encouraged to walk, your baby walk. And then you're encouraged to go to school. And when you go to school, you're given a vision, usually by your parents or by the teachers or things, as to who or what you should aspire to be. And then you go through school, and as you're encouraged through school or discouraged through school, you oftentimes move in a direction that others want you to move without really understanding who you are and really what you want to be. And in fact, that's normal. I mean, what our role models are tend to be those people that are around us and are encouraging us, which tends to be our parents, but is not always. And, everybody's got their own life, so you've got to look at it from that perspective. But what is it that we can really gain in terms of our own insight while we're young? For the most part, we're very malleable. We're being taught what to do. We look up to those around us, and that are our peer group or our parents or whatever, and we're trying to make them happy. So we're following kind of the vision or path that they have in their life. And that's kind of even in Joe's world here. Joe's father was a jazz musician, and I think that may have been where he really got this vision of being a jazz musician and following in his father's footsteps. And it became an obsession of his without him really recognizing that it was not really his vision, but it was the vision of his father, or the vision of those that he respected as he grew up watching his father on stage and playing and entertaining others. And then it became his. But did it really become his? It's, another example would be when you grow up and you're learning how to eat a hamburger, or what kind of a hamburger to eat. Oftentimes your parents will make the hamburger the way they like it. A hamburger with cheese on it and with ketchup on it. Or that might be what your mother does. And your father might be a plain hamburger with onions and mustard on it. And you tend to take one of those, or a combination of those, and that becomes the hamburger that you eat. But oftentimes you don't even know that the hamburger that you grew up liking may not be the hamburger that you actually chose. And if you experiment as you get older to where you actually have a choice in those matters, and you put a little bit of ketchup and a little bit of mustard and some onions and lettuce, and then all of a sudden you bite into it, you might say, wow, this is an experience that I've never had and I love it. And at other times you might say, oof, that just didn't taste the way that I like it. And you go back to what you were doing before. Nothing wrong with that. So in the movie Soul, how does it apply to our life? It applies in that we have to really start to look at what it is that has become our belief system, and to choose whether or not our belief system is ours, or is it something that we need to question and to look at and to maybe disassociate from a little bit in order to get a bigger picture. There's a story in the movie that a little baby fish is talking to an older fish, like a grandpa fish, if you want to call it that. And the baby fish is like, I want to find the ocean. And the grandpa fish says, this is water. And the baby's like, yeah, I know this is water, but I want to find the ocean. And it's one of those things where oftentimes we want this big picture. We want to be a part of this big thing. And what happens is we forget about the fact that we are actually in that big thing. It's surrounding us. And as a result, we don't see the big picture. We don't see the forest through the trees. We need to look at what it is that make up our souls. We need to question our belief systems. We need to really evaluate them and make sure they're serving us today the way that they may have served us when we were little. Remember, when we're little, we're looking for things that can serve our life at that time. And our life when we're growing up is significantly different than the life once we are grown up. So we do need to question those belief systems. We need to see if they really are our beliefs, and whether those beliefs are serving us today as well or better than they may have served us previously. And that's what soul's about. Soul's about questioning that, and then soul is also about grounding yourself. And this is where the tool that I chose for describing this movie was soul, but S-O-L-E, like the sole of your foot, the sole of your shoe. It is about getting grounded. It is about bringing yourself back down to earth. Oftentimes we get our heads in the clouds. We get into these visions, these goals, these reasons for being, and we do so at a way that actually takes us away from recognizing the here and now, the today, the little things in life that we can appreciate and realize there's a joy in life, even if we haven't achieved this major goal, if we haven't achieved our vision, if we feel like we're going down the wrong path of our vision. Oftentimes that's just an opportunity for discovery. A discovery is some littler things that we don't even recognize as being something to appreciate. The wind outside, the birds tweeting, the grass on the ground, the leaf falling from the ground in the fall. All of these things can be things that we can appreciate, and when we see them, be very happy about what we see. But oftentimes we overlook those, and we go through life feeling as though we're not getting what we want out of life. We're not able to, we don't appreciate things that can keep us happy in it. And oftentimes we get into a depression because we haven't achieved some big goal or something that somebody told us that we should do, as opposed to what we want to do. So I think that if we get that opportunity to really question ourselves and do so on a daily basis, question our beliefs, question what we were told by our parents, question what we were told by our churches, our schools, etc., and really evaluate those in terms of how they're serving us today, they can help us to really start to look beyond that big picture and in fact come back down to earth to where we can look at those little things in life. One of the great scenes that I thought came out in the movie is when Joe is at the barber shop, and the barber, as they're talking, the barber says, "Hey, he starts talking about his life, and he talks about the fact that he really wanted to be a doctor. And as he was going through school, some things started to happen in life where he had to take care of his family, and he ended up not being able to be the doctor, and he became a barber because it helped to pay the bills." And Joe's like, well, thinking, wow, you must really be upset about that. You kind of like failed in achieving that goal that you had while you were growing up. And the barber's like, no, this was one of the greatest things that happened to me, because I now get a chance to talk to many different people and hear many different people's stories and be able to actually interact with them and contribute to them and touch many people's lives. And that was kind of the same thing that happened to me. I mean, I went into the Air Force, and I wanted to go into the Air Force initially because I wanted it to pay for my medical school. But while I was going through college, I decided medical school wasn't what I was going to be fun for me to do. I decided I didn't like blood and I didn't like needles. So, okay, maybe medical school's not the right direction to go, right? So, as I said, I was going to use the military to pay for medical school. But when I graduated college with a degree in economics, I still wanted to do something for the country. So I went into the military. And, I know my mother says, oh, I really liked it when you went into the military, but I will tell you that I remember something where she was like disappointed when I decided I wasn't going to be a doctor, because there's this image of what a doctor is. And at that time, there was an image in what my mother thought being in the military was. My dad was in the Army for a couple of years, and she has this vision of what the military was like. And we grew up near Great Lakes Naval Base, which is the training base for the major training base for the Navy. And she had this image of what the military is like. And I went in and became, an officer in the Air Force. And when I went in, the Air Force said, you have a choice. You're either going to be an engineer or you're going to fly. And guess what? I didn't want to be an engineer and I didn't want to fly, but I did want to still go into the Air Force and I wanted to do something for the country. So I went in and I started in the flying training program as a navigator. I did not like it. In fact, when we went up and flew, I had the queasy stomach. I felt motion sickness. I didn't like it. And I realized that, there's no way that this is going to be an enjoyable life for me in the Air Force. But I still wanted to be in the Air Force, and I didn't want to get kicked out because I didn't make it through flying training. So, excuse me. I actually figured out a way to do that and, take this for what it is. But the military and the Air Force said that, if you were afraid of flying, that wasn't something that you had control over. So if you could demonstrate that you were afraid of flying, it wouldn't be held against you in terms of your career in the Air Force. And like I said, I didn't feel good. I mean, I had insomnia, I had kind of like irritable bowel, all that kind of stuff. I never did actually throw up when I was flying, but I do know guys that did, but they had a passion for it and a desire to continue to fly, and they worked their way through that. For me, it was, okay, this is an opportunity to maybe move into a different direction. And I eventually was deemed as having a fear of flying, and they put me into kind of a holding area initially. And this holding area kind of is like life. Sometimes we're heading down a path and we're not able to move in the direction that we want. And we're kind of in limbo for a while. And while I'm in limbo, I'm doing the work that they needed me to do, kind of some administrative work and things like that. And I was like, man, this sucks. I really hate sitting behind a desk and just doing administrative things, which is what I also thought maybe that would have been the best career for me in the Air Force, to be in administration, to use my economics background to help in buying and doing that kind of stuff. And I was like, man, this would really suck if I had to be behind a desk all the time. And then the Air Force said, okay, you're going to go into logistics. And in fact, it was transportation. I was like, transportation? That's motor pool stuff. That's being in charge of vehicles. And I had my own vision of what that was. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to suck. I got 4 years of this. I don't even like what it sounds like. And what they did is they put me in an aerial port, which an aerial port is like an airport in the Air Force, where you have the cargo planes and you're putting people on planes and things like that. And the very first position I was in was an extremely high intense position. It was what they call a duty officer. You're in charge of kind of the airport operations, monitoring and managing, leading the airport operations from kind of a coordinator's perspective. And I loved it. I didn't have to sit behind the desk all the time. I could go out to the flight line. I could go out and talk to the people. Things were coming up all the time that you weren't expecting. And that's where I really thrive. I love having a lot of balls in the air at the same time and trying to make sure that they continue to stay in the air. And that started my career in logistics, which I then continued on really for up until even now. I love logistics and being a part of it, but that was never something that anybody ever talked about when I was a kid. I mean, what was logistics? Logistics wasn't even really a word when I was growing up. Logistics only really became more known, let me call it widely known, during Desert Storm. Desert Storm back in the early 90s was when logistics really started to build a name for itself. It was how we got all the people, equipment, and everything over to the desert and then back from the desert and supported the war fighters and things like that. So, oftentimes in life, what we start with and what we think we need to be or we want to be. I wanted to be the neurosurgeon because my hands are small. I thought I was going to be really good at that, and ended up being a leader in the Air Force, a leader in corporate America, and logistics was two totally different worlds. But I found that the world of logistics, the world of having lots of things happening around you simultaneous, was where I really thrived. Now, that's not for everybody. There's a lot of people that do not like to have a lot of things happening around simultaneously. They'd rather be able to focus on something that's in front of them and get deep inside it and really know the ins and outs and the details and all that kind of stuff. And that's great. There's different people, different things. Soul kind of brings this out because you got 22, which is the little baby soul who has been there for millennia, trying to figure out, or not even wanting to come to Earth. She was having joy in missing out. You may have heard of FOMO, fear of missing out. 22 was getting joy from missing out. She was missing out on going to Earth. And she liked being able to prove everybody wrong about what it's like to go to Earth, what Earth could mean to her, and things like that. So Joe comes up to there, and Joe is a soul that didn't want to die. So there's a soul that didn't want to live in 22, a soul that didn't want to die in Joe, and the two of them come together, and because they get each other's perspective, they really get an opportunity to learn from each other in a way that neither one of them felt was going to be something that was going to work out for them. And ultimately, in the end, Joe was able to learn from 22 that there's more in life than just being a musician, and that he should appreciate the little things in life. And 22 realized that our spark in life is not this grandiose vision. It's not becoming that doctor. It's not becoming that general in the Air Force. It's about recognizing that leaf that falls out of the tree, that butterfly that lands on your finger, that rain that falls on your head, are all the things that really can be appreciated in life. And that's how this movie can really relate to you. It's about getting grounded again, about really getting your frequency. People's lives, everything is energy, right? Everything is energy. Our thoughts are energy. Our bodies are energy. The earth is energy. The sun is energy. Our emotions are energy. Our beliefs are energy. But oftentimes our energies get out of balance internally and also with the earth around us. So what we need to do is take that time to really ground ourselves, to recognize that we are energy, the earth is energy. We came from Mother Earth, and our frequency needs to be balanced in equilibrium with Mother Earth. So take that time to take your shoes off and walk in the sand, walk in the water, walk in the grass, and take that time, 10, 15 minutes a day, if you get an opportunity to regain your groundedness, rebalance your frequencies, appreciate those little things that are happening around you, watch the ants as they go by, and recognize that everything in and around Earth and the universe is here for a reason. It's oftentimes that we just overlook those reasons. And when we are able to reground ourselves, when we're able to breathe deeply and breathe in the air and to appreciate those things that are around us, that's when our soul really begins to grow. Our soul and our understanding and our beliefs within ourselves begin to grow. And that's what we need to do in life. So, this was just the first opportunity to have an interactive session with regard to the movies that we've done. Actually, Brandon Croucher and I have founded what we call One Square at a Time, which is a leadership's perspective from like a king on a chessboard, where a king can move any direction, but only one step at a time. And but you also interact with all of the chess pieces around you, all of the things that happen on Earth around us. And what we need to really be able to do is recognize that we can move one step at a time, but oftentimes we think we can only move forward, or we can only move to our right or to our left. And sometimes taking a step back is really important. And what we're trying to do is bring out tools. And like I said, in this movie, it's kind of corny, the soul movie, my tool being soul, or being grounded, SOLE, is a tool in life that we need to appreciate and bring into our lives so that we can live our lives to their fullest. And to recognize that life is full of challenges. If it wasn't for challenges, we would never learn. If it wasn't for failures, we would never really grow and learn. So take those opportunities, take those challenges, but the more tools that we have in our tool belt, the more things that we have to cope with the challenges of life, with the successes of life, with the failures of life, with the people around us, the less likely it is we'll become frustrated or depressed or sad for any length of time, because we have many different tools that we can use to draw upon to bring out the little things in life that we can appreciate and to be happy about. That's what we created One Square at a Time to do. It's to bring the leadership in life and the leadership to those around you to life by offering tools that are oftentimes overlooked or not perceived in the movies that we have available to us and that we review, and we bring those out so that you can use them in your life and improving the way that you view things around you. Because as we appreciate more about that around us and about that within us, we can offer that kind of leadership, that focus to those around us. Now, this was the first episode of the interactive version. We're going to drop another movie that we reviewed out to the public next Monday after Java Delight, which I am a co-host on Monday mornings, 7 o'clock Pacific time, which is a real challenge for me because I'm not really a morning person. I will drop the next movie so that you can watch the movie, watch our review of the movie, and then participate in the live interactive version on Thursday, where we can either bring you onto the show or take your comments and use them for our talking points as we go through the show. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you being here. I look forward to next week. And in the meantime, live life, love life, and be life. Thanks, everybody. Bye now.